Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel is one hell of an addictive game. The dueling, card crafting, deck building and card collecting via booster packs keeps me coming back for more, and the game has an added bonus of not having an aggressive monetization structure. Despite these factors, however, most of the fun I have had in Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel since starting playing the game around a month ago was whilst playing the 2004 event, whereby the duels were much slower paced and a brick for a hand wasn't an automatic loss, as you typically had another 2 turns to draw something to get you back into the fight. Furthermore, the duels didn't consist of 5-minute long turns with continuous special summoning from the extra deck. Playing through ranked duels and the recent Duelist Cup event, I often found myself playing my turn, then putting my phone down for a good couple of minutes as the opponent played through their turns. I got enough consistent wins via the Gaia the Fierce Knight and Blackwing decks to slowly climb the ranks. But the format of the duels remained the same, 5-minute turns stuffed to the brim with special summons. So like a few others before me, I took a step backwards and started looking into cards that would reset my opponent's playstyle to something I better enjoy, and what I came across was the anti-meta cards. I've never followed the meta in games that I play, so an anti-meta deck sounds like the perfect choice for me, and after building a deck with said anti-meta cards, not only did my enjoyment of the game increase, but so did my win ratios. So for this video we are going to look at 10 recommended cards for shutting down the meta and enjoying a game of Yu-Gi-Oh the good old fashioned way. Number 10. Max C. Okay, yes, I know. Max C is a very meta card. Every special summon your opponent conducts the turn you activate this card results in a bonus card draw for yourself. The intention here is to discourage the opponent from making too many special summons, especially on their first turn, and for every special summon that they do commit to, you get an extra card. That's more options for when you go into your first turn. That said, however, this is at number 10 as this card is frequently negated and can be a waste of an activation if the opponent has no special summons to conduct whatsoever. And let's not forget that this is an anti-meta deck we are building. If we can stop the special summons altogether, then this card is rendered redundant. Number 9. Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Another meta card, I know, but hear me out on this one. This one is still incredibly useful, as we are able to negate the opponent's ability to selectively pull cards from the deck, which can break a combo before it even starts. Also, this is a tuner monster, so we can use it in an emergency to synchro summon to more powerful monsters. And lastly, it has a decent defense value, and with the opponent pulling off less powerful special summons than usual against this deck, you'll find this defense value will actually come in handy from time to time. Number 8. Beat Raptor. Not only is this card not exactly meta, but I didn't even come across it when researching for anti-meta cards. Instead, this bad boy came to me as a random booster pack pull and got added to my deck when I was low on parts for crafting the other cards that I needed. Coming in with 2000 defense and an ability to outright disable the effects of monsters in the extra monster zones, this can immediately shut down the negate and destroy effects that are commonly found in extra deck monsters. You know, those effects that stop turn 2 players from getting a single activation off. It does, however, only affect the extra monster zones, including your own monsters of course, so anything that is summoned to the regular zones gets a free pass. But if you're short on parts for card crafting, you'll certainly find a useful card like this one sitting around in your collection, so go take a look. Number 7. Pot of Extravagance. Remember Pot of Greed from the old days, whereby you were able to draw 2 cards outright with no consequences whatsoever? Well, we don't have that anymore because of it being banned, but we do have this. This card requires that you banish cards from your extra deck in order to activate, and if you're not planning on allowing the special summoning of monsters at all, then the extra deck really doesn't really have any value for you, does it? So at the cost of banishing 6 random cards that you don't have any use for whatsoever, you get to draw 2 cards straight off the top of your deck. Unfortunately, we only get to add 1 of this card to the deck, and it certainly is a must-have. It is also worth mentioning that it has to be the first card of the turn that is played. If you play anything before it, then you've got to wait a whole turn again before you can activate it. Number 6. Moon Mirror Shield. This is a curious card. The monster equipped with this card gets its attack modified to match its opponent's attack or defense, whichever stat is higher, with an extra 100 attack on top. This means that no matter how weak or powerful the enemy monsters happens to be, you'll always be in a position to fight it off with an extra 100 points. I've seen a good few opponents already go in for the kill without even reading this card first, only to die at the hands of an innocent Ash Blossom in attack position. Yeah, that sounds bonkers, right? This card feels a lot like how Metal Morph played back in the day, but is used both offensively and defensively. Number 5. Solemn Judgment. Going back into the realm of the meta, again we have Solemn Judgment. At the cost of half of our life points, we can negate a summoning or the activation of a spell or trap card. It's a big price to pay, especially at the beginning of the duel, but if it stops the enemy special summoning the engine before it starts, then those points are more than worth it. Once you have the right card set up, this can quietly sit in the back row for emergencies. If you haven't gotten your hands on this card yet, I highly recommend it, as it was a staple that will fit into almost any deck. Number 4. Necro Valley. Now we are getting into the territory of cards that change the format of the game from the moment they are played. Necro Valley can easily be dismissed as a Gravekeeper's support card, as I once did, but it has a secondary function, and oh boy, is it a good one. With this card on the field, you can prevent any card from leaving the graveyard. Whether you're banishing cards from the grave to use their secondary effects, or summoning them from the grave, it doesn't matter anymore, you can't do it. Now think to yourself, how many decks rely on some form of interaction with the graveyard to get extra bonuses, or to recycle cards back into the hand or deck? This card alone can be a major disruption, but it's not as huge a disruption as the remaining cards in this list. So we have number 3, Macrocosmos. Just like the previous entry, this card has 2 effects, and could be considered a support card for another archetype. Here we are not interested in special summoning Helios the Primordial Sun, but instead in the second effect. Any card that goes to the graveyard is instead banished whilst this card is face up on the field. Remember that graveyard disruption we talked about from earlier? Well, this goes a step further. One thing to remember here though is that it won't disrupt everybody's playstyles. In fact, decks that thrive when their cards are banished will get supercharged by this card. So use it wisely. Number 2, Fossil Diner Pachyphalo. Yeah, this is a hard one to pronounce, I've had no practice with this one whatsoever. Whilst this card is on the field, neither player can special summon monsters at all. That's right, no big scary monsters from the hand, deck, extra deck, graveyard or elsewhere are going to chain themselves into existence whilst this monster is on the field, and it also has the added bonus of destroying all special summoned monsters when it is flipped face up. But having this card face down runs the risk of it getting removed from the field by a special summoned monster before it gets an opportunity to use this effect. So I prefer to summon this guy face up outright. Do remember that this little guy needs protecting, as the moment he is removed from the field, the opponent can get right back to business with special summoning monsters from all over the place. And this brings us to number 1, Thunder King Rai-Oh. I presume I've pronounced this one right. This guy has 2 effects, both of which are incredibly important and will find use in your games. The most important of the 2 is the ability to prevent the enemy from selectively adding cards to their hand from the deck. The only way they can obtain cards from the deck now is by drawing the good old-fashioned way. It's almost like having an Ash Blossom but permanently active. Do note, however, that it doesn't stop the opponent from special summoning monsters from their decks, which is where the next ability might come in handy. You can negate the special summoning of one monster by sending this card from the field to the graveyard. If Fossil Diner the Unpronounceable hasn't made it onto the field yet, then this may be one of your few options to proactively negate a special summon before the opponent's special summoning engine really gets moving. Just remember that once you've negated that special summon, the opponent will be able to start deck searching all over again. So those are my 10 recommended cards. Do you enjoy the shift in gameplay from going anti-meta? And what cards do you use to combat the current meta? Let me know in the comments section, and hit that subscribe button for future, more casual oriented Master Duel videos. Until then, play casual.